Thanks, Lindsay. My name's Robbie. I'm an adult child.
Hi, Robbie.
Thanks for this meeting. And I'm just going to do a feelings check-in. I'm feeling frightened, anxious, excited, and reflective, I suppose. I've been reflecting. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about this year most of the week, what I was going to say, and worrying about it, worrying about getting my words tangled and having a great share and having everybody love me. Do you know what I mean? Like, the perfectionist in me has to have the perfect share. So I'm going to share for the heart. This meeting really taught me, if I share for the heart, everything usually takes care of itself after that. So I'm going to try and focus mostly on my recovery, and I'll probably jump back a wee bit back and forth. It's quite overwhelming trying to think, trying to look at my recovery journey all in a winner. But I came into ACA almost 2 years ago. It's almost 2 years to the day, and I was about 6 months sober, 6 months in AA, and barking mad, really. Just had loads of these emotions coming up, loads of fear, all the stuff I was running from in my drinking and using were kind of amplified, and I was getting a lot of relief through the AA meetings, but there was still a boogie in me, dis-ease, and I was getting triggered a lot in AA meetings, and I was picking sponsors, which now in reflection, became authority figures, became abusive, and I tolerated a lot of stuff because I was just so used to minimising abuse towards me. And I'm not here to shit on AA by any means. It's just, what came up for me. I always feel the need to justify that. I don't really need to justify it, it's just my truth I'm telling. So leading up to AA, I had a number of kind of breakdowns and spiritual experiences, I'd probably say, quite defining moments, like my first panic attack in 2011. It seemed like the worst thing to ever happen to me, but it was the best thing ever happened to me, really. That was, in reflection, that was the beginning of my healing journey. That was in 2011, and drink was never the same after that. It just didn't work after that, and I spent 10 years basically trying to get it to work and trying to get other substances to work. But I became awake after that, I would say. It was like I became awake to how fearful I'd been all my life and how much rage I was carrying in me. And I never knew what was happening. I thought I was just losing my mind. And a friend suggested that I'd maybe had a panic attack. It was maybe caused by anxiety. I'm like, that, what the fuck's anxiety? Do you know what I mean? I'd never heard the word anxiety even used. And that's kind of when the digging, I started digging into like a self-help obsession, I suppose, started, and I started buying all the books. And starting the quest to fix myself, you know. And it did become an unhealthy obsession, you know, because what the message I was giving myself was I had to be fixed. But there's many things I learned along that time until I got to AA, which held me in good stead and helped me a lot when I got into AA, and just picking up on behaviours that I'd been reading about that were, you know, could be abusive. And I read a lot of Gabor Mate as well. You know, I'm fortunate in that I'm of the generation where, like, Gabor Mate is kind of mainstream and spoken of. It's all kind of in the circles, and that helped me greatly as well. You know, reading about the trauma. But I came on this meeting. I'd shared in an AA meeting very vulnerably about stuff going on with my dad, still drinking, and I was trying to save him. I was trying to drag him to an AA meeting, and he was having none of it, and I was having all these feelings coming up, all this rage. And I wanted to save my dad, and I couldn't. And I came to ACA just based on that initially, and then a whole eruption took place. You know, my denial came down, more and more denial broken, and I started acknowledging all the other abuse and abandonment, you know, the physical, emotional, intellectual, sexual, all of it that I'd suppressed. And I had a lot of anger come up. And, you know, adult children of alcoholics, I thought I was, you know, I started coming to ACA because of all the anger I felt towards my dad and my stepdad for their abuse. And then actually, the longer I'm in, it's more, I'm acknowledging the pain and the hurt I felt from not being protected from my mother, the non-alcoholic. And that's been heavy duty because I idolised her. I had to idolise her. You know, to have a sense of safety growing up. And that's brought a lot of grief with it. And it's been painful. And it almost felt for a while after coming to ACA that things were getting worse. I was getting triggered more. But the truth is, I was just more aware of it and more aware of not denying the feelings anymore. And that's, you know, I started off with a feelings check-in. It's just acknowledging them. You know, I check in with a fellow traveller every day with a brief feelings check-in, just to centre me. And it's been incredible doing that. You know, it's been probably almost a year we've been doing that. And I suppose it's just taking the power away from, you know, trying to fix the feelings. And I'd love to say I have totally stopped trying to fix my feelings, but, you know, all day I've been trying to get myself grounded and perfect for coming on here and sharing the perfect share. And that's all right as well, you know. And it's natural for me to wish certain feelings away. But that's been my main takeaway from ACA, is that my feelings are all right no matter what they are. And I'm getting more comfortable with the angry parts of myself as well. And, you know, I'm expressing it. I'm getting more and more into healthy angering techniques and getting out of my body. And I suppose I'll share about the last kind of 6 months or so. Because last year, my life really opened up after continuously working on these issues. I started feeling a lot of relief and a lot of peace, and started to feel in touch with the authentic me, and my life seriously opened up, like unrecognisably. Just more comfortable in social situations, more. Oh, sorry, somebody's trying to phone me. Apologies. Sorry,
That's all right. It's okay, Robbie.
Someone tried to phone me. So, my life just started opening up a lot last year. Things just seemed to be going smoothly, and I was getting more and more comfortable having difficult conversations and speaking my mind and asking for what I need and saying no and resting, looking after myself. It was all just working out well. I met my girlfriend, who we've now been together about 8 months, and my life seemed incredible in the summer, and it was incredible. It was the best year of my life last year. And I got to the end of summer, and a lot of grief came up. And I think now, on reflection, I was on this high. Here I was, like, being my true, authentic self. And I was just on a high. And I think I ran myself into the ground. I was chasing that excitement. And I was in flight, really. And I didn't realise it. And I was running. And towards the end of summer, I started doing things I didn't want to do. I went to Ireland, which I was really looking forward to, but my body didn't want to go. My body needed the rest, and I still went. And I think that had a knock-on effect, of going against my intuition, really. And my health started declining from then, almost from the end point of summer, just started declining. I started feeling tired. And I was in a kind of spiral of, trying to get back to this perfect, I was in the salvation fantasy of, I need to be back there. I need to be this way all the time. And the more I kind of chased that, the more ill I was getting. Because I was running myself more and more into the ground, trying to catch up with this old feeling that was no longer mine. And I just a lot of sadness coming up, which I've had to feel. Really, I've really had to feel. I've never cried so much as over this period, from kind of August until January. Just a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of triggering situations, and a lot of fear. There's been a lot of stuff coming up with family and friends who I've been feeling a lot of pushback. The more boundaries I'm putting in, I'm starting to feel pushback from people because they're not used to that from me. I'm kind of trying to teach people how to treat me, and not everybody likes that. So that's been quite painful, and I've let a lot of people go in the last year. A lot of people go, and there's grief around that as well, you know, old relationships that are kind of dragging me down, and I was still minimising a lot of families' behaviour and just putting up with shit, and I don't need to put up with shit. And I've stopped going places I'm no longer heard. You know, I've pulled back a lot from AA recently, and that's been an ongoing like conflict in my head doing that. But it feels intuitive to me to do that. You know, I've been really seeking safety recently, and for me just now, I feel too raw to be in AA. So I probably do 1-2 AA meetings a month at the minute to hear the message, and that's all right for me. And I don't need, you know, I found myself before looking for people's approval in AA about that, and was that right? And you know, asking other people in ACA and AA, like, how many do you do? You know, and I suppose that's the discernment I've learned in here as well, is I don't need other people's approval. I don't need authority figures to tell me what's right for me. And my life's unrecognisable, really, from working this programme. It's fucking unbelievable. In such a short space of time as well. You know, it's only been 2 years, and it's just like, it's just riding the wave of that. You know, the pain, as many people have said on here, it's very messy. But I've never once regretted it. You know, it's like I've never looked back. And I was shouting from the rooftops about ACA, you know, when I first got here. I would tell everybody and anybody about it and try and get them on board. I sat my brother and sister down at a table, and I was like, right, I found this 12-step program. I think you really need it. You know? And it's just the change in that, you know. And now the more I'm stepping back and just being an example to the people I love, you know, the more they're intrigued to know what I do, instead of ramming it down their throat. And I opened my own mini Limerick in Glasgow as well, which has been incredible. You know, having an in-person meeting with no time limits as well. You know, I was reflecting on that today, how much I needed the no time limits when I got here. I felt really safe to be vulnerable, and I notice how differently I share when there is a time limit. You know, I still go to the ACA meetings with time limits, but I share differently. It's more kind of calculated and in a general way, whereas here I can talk through my nerves and then get to the point, really. And that was so important for me. And I've been going to a lot of different ACA meetings to challenge myself as well, actually, because the time limit is quite a trigger for me. You know, I think it's good for me to do what's uncomfortable and reflect on the feelings that have come up when I'm told I've got 30 seconds to wrap up, or, you know, somebody cuts in the middle of my share. So, I don't really know where else to go now. I suppose just learning. The more I learn, about my trauma. You know, the more I see how much my intuition has led me places, and, you know, learning about healthy angering, and, you know, I'm seeing how much I've done that intuitively. You know, I smashed buses to, you know, I smashed bus windows to get that energy out of me. I went, you know, gang fighting, drinking, you know, it was all just my way of coping with what was in me, and trying to get the energy out. And I'm all right with that stuff that I've done. And I with music as well, you know, and that just intuitively going into music and intuitively wanting to make abrasive music, that was my way of getting the rage out of me, and it served me very well, you know, from doing that from, you know, the last 10 years. I don't know how I could have survived without doing that. Really, the catharsis that I've experienced through music, and that's my higher power that's led me there, and led me here. And I've kind of recently, you know, I've been going back to that as well. You know, when I got into recovery, I was just so excited about all this stuff, ACA, and it just became such an obsession that I left behind a lot of things that helped before, you know. And I'm going back to like doing more music, and because I need to play as well as all of this, you know, and I can feel different things in those places that I can't feel just by talking about it. You know, it's a different language, and I'm expressing through art. So I think it's very important for me to keep that, you know, and I feel very grateful to have found that. And I believe my higher powers led me to ACA, and I'll just keep coming back. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me.